Ableton 12.3 has dropped. Now it's interesting because if I remember right, the other Ableton versions, I felt like, and I could be wrong on this, always downloaded to your DAW instantly, like you didn't have to do anything. But for some reason, with this particular one, you had to go into Ableton, log in, and then download it again, which then requires it to replace the version you had, which kind of blows my mind because we're still in 12. It's not like it's a beta, it's the actual release of it. So let me pull it up real quick. Hopefully this won't show my login information, but if you're going to get Ableton, this is the time to get it, right? Because now we have the integration of splice, we have stem separation. Those are two of the main features that have been added. Let's take a look at it together. I already did the update because I can't show that on camera because it'll show my account. So unfortunately, that's just not going to happen. But here are some of, let's see if we can find the features. Okay, here we go. This is what I want. It's easier sometimes to just show you straight off the website. But anyway, stem separation for sure. Splice integration, as I said. Being able to bounce entire groups of audio in place to a new audio track is insane. And then pace bounce audio is a new option. The auto pan tremolo device has been made easier to access. And then there's a new device AB feature that lets you compare your mixing tweaks or sound design. That's a new thing that's happening in a lot of plugins too. I'm starting to see where, and I like it because you can kind of go between. In fact, they added it to Good Hertz Volf compressor mastering edition. So anyway, let's see. That's the main things I think that were upgraded. Let's see. Yeah, that were upgraded in 12.3. I think Push got a few things too, but I'm not on Push, and I'm not going to really go into anything with regards to Push just because I don't have one so anymore. Okay, so let's get out of here. And here we are in Push 3. I mean, Push 3. We're definitely not in Push 3. Ableton Live 12.3. I can't show you this because it shows your serial number, and I'm not going to put that on camera. But we are, and we'll just take a look at, see what we can for a few features. So I'm going to grab an audio track. Let's see here. Something that I can play and not get affected because these are presets. So we'll go with this mix. I don't even know what this will sound like. Let me turn on this other keyboard just in case I need it for triggering purposes. We'll create the loop around that one, and then we will take a look at, well, first of all, let's listen to it. Okay, that doesn't sound so good to me, but um, it could be because it's playing so slow. I don't know what the tempo was. Let me see if I can figure out what the tempo of this particular. Let's just grab another one. I don't like the way that one sounds anyway. Let's go for something that's. And we know the BPM on this one is 75, so that's good. So let's just increase it to 75. We'll throw this mix in. Cool. So here's the track. Let's go ahead and see what the stem separation looks like. Mind you, I'm on the beta, so I could have probably done something with it. I'm not using the beta currently, but I do have access to be on the beta because I'm already, as long as you're Ableton Live, they pretty much accept everybody to be on the beta. Um, I don't really have a desire to be on the beta. I just want to use it to make music because you have to, the one thing about the beta is you have to have a separate You have your Ableton that you use, and then you have your separate one that's the beta. You can not use your previous version with the beta. They have to be separate. It's too much. For me, it's not worth the hassle. So anyway, I'd rather just wait till it's perfected. Then I don't have to complain about nothing. So let's see. I'm trying to keep this mic as close as I can. It's kind of hard with the Osmos here because it's in the way. Let's see. So here you go. Bounce to new track. Paste bounce is right here. Bounce to new track. Bounce track in place. Here we go. Stem separation. So it's in this section here. And then you can pick vocals, drum. There is no vocals in this, so we'll turn that off. And I'd rather have high quality than just high speed because this is such a small sample. It's only 8 bars, so let's do it. See what it gives us. I do not have expectations for stem separation, as most stem separation to me is terrible. Even MPC, I've tried them all. They just don't, there's nothing about them that's like going to give me quality stuff. I mean, Logic was the best I've ever tried. In my opinion, I thought Logic was the best. But even it had its issues. So it puts it in a group track. Kind of that's the way Logic, if I remember right, does it. And what we're gonna do is go ahead and get rid of that because it'll. So here's the drums. Let's just solo each one and see what it does. Okay, let's solo this one. Not bad. And let's do this one. Oops, gotta actually hit solo. So I can still hear the artifacts in this one. Let's just try something here just for fun. We'll drop an EQ on this track and we'll literally just try to take that out and see what it does. Oops, gotta go back there, huh? So you can kind of EQ out some of that little slightly kick and bass you hear going on. Um, that's always something that's good anyway if you're gonna use samples that you might EQ the sample, especially if it's not something that's like somebody made this sample and it's just a certain one instrument. Um, you sometimes have to take the bass out of stuff. You have to move stuff around. But anyway, so that's that. Now let's just say I'm not going to use these drums. I already know that. You know what? They'll bring that back. Actually, I'll show you one way I would say if you wanted to use these drums. I would personally do. Um, I like to convert it to drum MIDI because I wouldn't use this sample per se, but sometimes the drum MIDI can be good enough to where if you take the MIDI and put it on something like Addictive Drums, where you got a right here, let's drop it here, see if that does anything. All right, I forgot to mute these other tracks. Sorry about that. Let's go back so you can hear just the drums. So if you like that drum pattern, this is a great way, in my opinion. I think you come out better doing this than trying to use the sample. One, you don't have to clear this because you're just using MIDI to trigger another track, so it's fine. Um, and two, you're gonna have a little bit cleaner sound that you can choose to gritty or make it dirty by throwing effects on it. I think you come out better with that if you're gonna sample drums, unless you're sampling drum one shots, and then that's a little bit different. But this isn't a clean break, in my opinion. It's kind of we're stripping it from another track, so sometimes it can sound pretty bad. In my That's just an opinion. Okay, so we're gonna move on. I'm gonna get rid of those drums. We're gonna go into. I'm gonna skip the bass for now, though. I would probably, if I was gonna do this, anything with this bass. Let me do this. I would go here and I would just extract or convert it to a melody. I know you think, well, it's not a melody, but it doesn't matter. Melody, bass line, same thing. All right, and then what would I do? I would take. Let me I'm gonna get rid of this track because it's kind of in the way right now. Same thing with this one. I'm trying to condense it down so you can see what I'm doing here. And then I would take this and drop it on Trillion, a better sounding, bass track. And then you have. So there you have it. That's what I would do with drum and bass portions of it. I typically don't sample drums and bass like that because especially if you're doing stem split because it tends to not be so good. If you get somebody that gives you a real drum break where they've done it themselves, that's one thing. But yeah, just my way. Now this last piece is actually decent. I'm gonna mute these two up here. We'll listen to this a little bit. But as you can tell, it's got its own little quirks and little uh, things in it that I don't care for. So even though it says 75, it didn't even really go 75. So being in Ableton, you already have, no, you can just you just warp this thing in time, stretch it to where you want it to be, and then consolidate that. It's still not where I want it to be, but whatever. There we go. Now that would be, and then consolidate it to 75. So now when you play it, at least you know it should be. And this is where I would either throw effects on it or maybe I would chop it up. But for me, that's not how I work. And you guys know this for the most part if you've been on this channel for a little while. I'm going to time stretch this thing to death, literally. Like, well, you know what? I'm going to even do it more than that. I'm going to go, we'll just pick a number. It doesn't even matter. Join. And all I'm going to do is just stretch it out and then pitch it. There we go. I'm going to stretch it out because I don't want it to sound like the sample that it did sound like. Now I'd probably consolidate it first to see what it sounds like and then start the pitch work where I pitch it. Probably throw some effects on it. try it in reverse. Don't care for that. So something like that, and then put my drums over the top. So so this is stem separation, stem separation, and then an example of how I would use it. I'm gonna show you some of the other stuff too, but um, I think it's in my, I don't have Splice, so therefore that will not help you. I don't really use it, um, but I've heard that it works really well, and I've seen some videos on it, and I highly suggest watch some different videos of people that actually use Splice. Um, it's not nothing wrong with using it. I just don't choose to use it. I'd rather make my own samples or something like to that effect. But that's just me personally. Um, let's do one thing. Let's do this bounce to new track. Well, I feel like we already had bounce to new track. Let's freeze this track and see what options come up. Nope, we already. I was trying to see what that new thing, but we already kind of had bounce to new track. It did that. Um, bounce track in place. We can do that. Let's just. So you when you do that, you lose your MIDI. So we're gonna undo that. So in, that's probably not the option. I would say if you're gonna do it, definitely bounce to a new track, like so. So that way you don't lose your MIDI in case you want to pull it back. Um, and then it puts it on another track as a WAV file. So pretty simple. Those are kind of like quality of life upgrades, in my opinion. Um, but they're definitely something we needed in Ableton. There we go. So I'm just gonna do this real quick. I'm gonna play the kick drum at least. I just threw those in. one sounds off. It's probably the snares. I drew them in like real, or maybe not. Yeah, some of these notes are very off. Let's get this out of here. I think I like what I had up here on the first two bars, which I'm fine with, and then we'll just duplicate it. It's not duplicating in the right spot, but all right, let's try that. Throw in a couple extra hits here. All right, so now we have some of this is off. I can see it already on the kicks. Okay, so this last part, this fifth chord here, hold on a second, shouldn't be there. We'll get rid of that. All these mistakes I'm making. All right, cool. So there's just 8 bars. We'll just loop that. And then we'll add in the hi-hats. Okay, MIDI capture, there it is. All right, so now we have so you get the point. Stem separation, my way of using it. And of course, you can just use the stems if you want to, but I would rather utilize the stems to help me build an idea using something from them, but maybe not everything. You don't need to really use all of the stems just because you do stem separation. In fact, I would say probably best to just pick whatever really stands out to you that moves you to build a song, and that's where I would go personally with it. So I'm gonna throw in like little extra notes, like little ghost notes. A little extra can give it a perfect. Not perfect, but perfect, right? Then I can loop that out a couple times. And now we have some 8-bar drums. Now, to give it a little more variety, what I would do is go in and here and then do some deviation. I talk about this a lot in most of my videos here. Same thing here, you need some deviation on the snares too. Boom. Maybe even the kicks you want a little bit. All right. That way you have, it doesn't all sound exactly the same every time it hits. And then what I do is I have my drum bus set up. Valhalla Vintage Reverb. One of the best. If you get none of the others, at least get that one. Drum kit enhancer. That's a roar kind of distortion type thing. The transient shaper is one from Stage Seed or Seed Stage that he put out. You can use any transient shaper though that you want, but I like the one that's made for Ableton just because it's, well, one, it was free, but two, because it it doesn't use a lot of processing when you use the Ableton stuff, and the roar just sounds amazing. I use it on the bass and on these drums, so I just think it sounds really good. I just remove the grouping because we don't need a group. Once you get what you want out of that, just remove the grouping. There's no point in keeping the grouping there, just taking up space on your tracks. Now, mind you, you do need Ableton Live Suite, as far as I know, to be able to get the stem separation. So if you don't have the suite, this is not going to work for you. But this is the time that I would say go ahead and upgrade, because it's a discount right now. I think what, 25% off or something. So you might as well go ahead and get the upgrade. If you have the light version, the intro version, the standard version, just go for it and get the upgrade. You won't regret it. There's so many cool Max for Live tools that are out there that can get you so far in Ableton, and they don't use a lot of CPU, which is kind of cool. And mind you, I'm running, big time plugins like Addictive Drums, Trillion. Those are high tier plugins that use a lot of CPU, and I'm still not topping over. But it's because I'm not using that many tracks. If you notice, I've only got these 3 tracks up here are just MIDI control things, which could easily be removed if I'm not using them. Oops, I meant to delete that track. Like Harmony Bloom, I'm not using it right now. I leave scalar usually in there, but the rest of those could be removed, and little bass. And then if you want to know what, because usually when you pitch things and change stuff, this is why I keep scalar up here, particularly up here. There is scalar detect, a new thing that's out, but if you got scalar, just leave it in there. Grab your mix, throw it in. It's going to detect the audio, and it can kind of get you close to what the key is. So give it a second to finish its detection. but it's showing G flat minor. So we'll put this in that scale and we'll use that as the scale that this is in, and then just duplicate that out. You can always go back and change your drums and drop drums out and do that, but you get the point. So let me move some of this back here, just at least right there. Okay, cool. So now you have a little bit more. I forgot to learn the scale. Okay, I think I got it. So something like that. I'm gonna play that real quick. I was just practicing. Typically, if we weren't doing this video, I would sit here and just keep playing and play this all the way out, which I strongly encourage people to do. It not only builds your skill level of playing, but it also helps you to have less repetitive. Because when you just create a 4-bar loop or an 8-bar loop or whatever type of loop, typically you have so much repetition in it. Like, this is wrong anyway. This should be technically 8 bars. I only played for 6 bars. That's fine. I'm not really tripping on it. But the point I'm making is you should build your repetition. In fact, I'm going to do it over because I think I am going to play for the 8 bars, but just so you can see it.